I'm all in favour of listening to experts because no political leader can be an expert on everything. They just can't be. But advice is just an input to a decision, and it should be weighed up with all the other things leaders need to consider. The impact on voters, the cost, historical practice, what's worked before and what's failed, and proportionality. In the end, that's why we elect Prime Ministers and Premiers in the first place, to weigh up all the considerations and to exercise their judgment, to act, to decide. Unlike the people giving advice to then walk away and keep their jobs, whether it's been good advice or bad, a politician at least is accountable for the decisions they make in a way a bureaucrat never is. And that's why I think that all of us feel there's been a bit too much hiding behind unelected and unaccountable officials at the moment, and too much subcontracting out of the hard choices we elect leaders to make. When the Queensland Premier fronted the television cameras earlier today to justify keeping the borders closed until September, I was struck by how much she deferred to Queensland's Chief Medical Officer. Now, as able as this health expert might be on health, she's no economic expert. She's no employment expert. She's no small business or tourism expert. She's not expert in all the other areas that are now under pressure due to this virus. That's where a real leader needs to step up and lead by weighing up the health advice, sure, but alongside all the other considerations that now must be front of mind as we try to get life back to some sort of normal out of this crisis. Right now, without some tough decisions by our premiers, normal is a long way off, and hiding behind the skirts of officials won't make it any easier. Why are some listening to Annastacia and not others?
From a medical point of view, I can't see why the borders are still closed, but as I said, that's for the states and territories themselves to decide when that timing is right for them.
So the expert in Queensland matters when it says shut the borders, but the expert in Canberra doesn't matter when he says they shouldn't have been shut in the first place and they don't need to be shut now. As a country, let's not forget we've lost over 600,000 jobs in a single month. We've got 1.5 million people on the double dole. We've got over 6 million sort of employed, but only because the taxpayer's picking up the tab. Now, when all of that ends, God help us. And we're staring down the barrel of the deepest slump, at least since the Great Depression, maybe ever. Yet many of our leaders, some who've never had a real job other than doing the numbers in politics, are too scared to make a decision, and they're sending households and businesses to the wall. Now, I'm not saying open slather. We don't yet have any sort of vaccine, and until we do, there will still need to be some constraints like social distancing, in particular for older people and the vulnerable. But if we keep the national borders shut to returning Australians only, and those that do come home go into the same sort of hotel quarantining that we've had for some time, then I reckon we're a long way to keeping this virus under control. We've ramped up hospital capacity, we've trebled the number of ventilators, and most of us, with rare exceptions, are doing the right thing, washing our hands and keeping distance and all the rest. So enough of being treated like toddlers. It's fast becoming the ultimate nanny state here for premiers on a power trip, and the goodwill they've earned with Australians to date, I reckon it's fast slipping away. I think we all need to understand, we all understand, strong action was required at the start of this crisis, and the PM quite sensibly from day one talked about saving lives and livelihoods. Now, we've saved lives, but we need to win the battle to save livelihoods, and that means getting all the state borders open now. Children, all of them, back at school, and businesses up and running as best they can. Otherwise, these state premiers are just doing a good job of highlighting all the reasons why scrapping state governments, well, that would be a really good way to save money.